Today is Thursday, May 27, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. The 100th commemoration of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Events taking place over the next several days. We will be, of course, live streaming this, talking about the impact, but also not just the past, but the present and the future. We'll be talking with Councilwoman here in Tulsa. Also, a brother who is the editor-in-chief of the Black Wall Street Times. We're broadcasting live from their offices. Also today, you will hear from Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, as well as the artists, where they unveil a mural today across from the Greenwood Cultural Center. It was a moving, unbelievable mural, and we'll show you that as well. Also, today's show, Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina will join us. We'll talk about a variety of issues, including the George Floyd Justice Act. Also, on today's show, Aramis Ayala, former state prosecutor, the first African-American state prosecutor in Florida. She's running for Congress. She joins us as well. In addition, we'll also talk with the Ghost Brothers. Brothers and Ghosts? Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. Folks, it's a jam-packed show. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered from Tulsa. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
100 years ago on May 31st, 100 years ago on May 31st, the Greenwood area in Tulsa was decimated, destroyed, as white folks in this country lost their mind, killing upwards of 300 African Americans. It was so stunning and devastating, we really don't even know the total number of African Americans who were killed when they were attacked. 10,000 people ended up being refugees, moving all across the country, escaping the vicious racism and hatred that took place in Greenwood. Many people know about Black Wall Street. That's where it was located. It was eventually rebuilt, but the scars remain. It is still difficult to fathom what took place on that day 100 years ago. Over the next several days, there will be events taking place here in Tulsa commemorating that event, many of them emotional. Folks, of course, you're going to have art renderings and all kinds of different concerts and things along those lines. But we have to remember, black folks lost their lives. This is a solemn occasion, in many ways similar to how America looks at 9/11. In fact, folks, there's been so much talk, not only talk about back then, about the races being separated, but you still have separation happening in Tulsa. Folks reached out to me saying you have the, quote, white Tulsa Centennial Commission and the black Tulsa Centennial Commission. This city and this state has yet to create a victims' compensation fund for the survivors. And there still are survivors, as well as descendants of the folks who were impacted here in Tulsa. We're here at the offices of the Black Wall Street Times, where they launched today. They have a magazine and digital presence as well, focused on telling the story, not only the historical story, but what's actually happening today. And one of the folks who's on the front lines of this is my first guest. She is a councilwoman here in Tulsa, Vanessa Hall Harper. She joins us right now. I'm glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you so much for bringing Unfiltered to Tulsa. I'm a huge fan.
Well, I certainly appreciate it.
You're my frat brother, too.
All right, then. Well, we had to be here. We had to be here to tell this story. First of all, how long have you been on the council?
I won my first election in 2016, so I'm serving my third term.
I was talking earlier to Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, and she was talking about the battle that you've been involved in when it came to a victims' compensation fund and getting this city and this state not just to sit here and mark this event and not do what I actually called, and some people, again, don't get offended by this, folks. Here you had black pain caused 100 years ago. But now you have what I call black porn, where folks want to benefit financially, but don't want to still provide compensation to the living, to the 3 survivors and the descendants who were impacted by this massacre.
That's absolutely, I love that term. I call it empty symbolism. We're good at that in Tulsa. We're good at looking like we're doing something, trying to look like we're not racist. But in the meantime and in between time, we're not doing anything that's going to really repair, that's going to restore, that's going to atone. And that's what we're good at in Tulsa. And in this state, we're good at doing those things. But when we're talking about putting initiatives in place that's going to actually change the status quo, that's going to improve quality of life, that's going to change the trajectory of a community, because the community is still suffering too.
Right.
Certainly the victims and their descendants, but the community as a whole continues to suffer as a result of the massacre. And so very little, you know, but what we have to do first is apologize officially and then work on atonement. And that's not really what we're good at. We're good at telling you what you're going to get. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you this history center. We're going to give you that, and you need to accept it as reparations. No.
And see, so I remember years ago when Professor Charles Ogletree and other lawyers, I think Johnny Cochran was involved, Willie Gary, they came to Congressional Black Caucus Foundation with a number of the survivors.
Yes.
It is down to 3. It's unfortunate Charles can't be here. He's suffering from Alzheimer's. And I remember, again, folks were talking about fighting for reparations. So the state set up a commission.
Yes.
Okay. You said apologize. So Oklahoma and Tulsa has never officially offered an apology. So what did they actually do?
From those recommendations, not very much. They had started the mass graves investigations 20 years ago, but the mayor at that time stopped it. And so we've had...
And explain to people what the mass graves investigation is.
Okay, so we know that there are mass graves throughout this community. We know of some through historical recollections, specifically where they are, but we know that there's rumors of other locations. And so 20 years ago, that investigation started to uncover where these mass graves were. But at the time, the mayor stopped it. It was too divisive for whatever reason. Who knows what the reasons were? And so that was something that was started, but it abruptly ended. We've had the mayor some years ago say, I apologize, but there was no atonement, right? There was nothing following up, so it's empty.
So it was a statement.
It was a statement. We've even had the chief of police, our former chief of police, said he apologized, but nothing to follow. Certainly not any policies that we know still impact the black community detrimentally in our city. And so it's all empty promises. It's all empty symbolism. I see the Greenwood History Center as a symbolism. And I'm, for one, I'm just sick of the symbolism. I'm not going to go to any more tree dedications. I'm not going to any more bench dedications, park dedications. I'm sick of all of that because none of that improves the quality of life from our community. None of that atones. None of it. It's empty symbolism. And so that's, again, that's what we're good at as a city, and I, for one, will not participate in it.
When we talk about, and I was sharing this earlier with a couple of folks out at the mural unveiling. Yes. 9/11 took place. This country created a victims' compensation fund.
Like that.
All right, you got white folks in America they're scared to death of the title reparations. Okay, fine. We literally created a victim compensations fund. What took place on 9/11 wasn't done by the taxpayers. That was done largely by Saudi terrorists. Saudi Arabia didn't pay for that. The American government did. Exactly. And so my question again is, why is it so hard for Tulsa to say we're going to do this? Are all these events they're having, are they selling tickets?
Yes, I'm
okay.
sure. Some of them are.
So the question for me is a portion of those ticket sales going to a victim compensation fund? Anything. So basically, and again, for the people at home, so the black folks are having stuff tomorrow through Monday.
Free.
And then the white folks, the official commission, their stuff begins Monday and then goes through the whole week.
No, they've been having events for the last month.
So is there anything in that official commission that has created an economic pathway for descendants as well as survivors?
Not to my knowledge. And that's been my question. Where the museum or history center is being built, who owns that land? Who's going to benefit? That's tourism. There's dollars attached to that.
That's my whole point.
I know.
Because when I think of tourism, and again, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking about a victims compensation fund, that means that, all right, if you're coming to Tulsa for these tourist events, that means that hotels are benefiting. That means that if you get a victims compensation fund, a portion of the hotel dollars should be flowing into that fund. If you're going to be having these annual events and restaurants are benefiting, those receipts, dollars should be flowing into these funds. So there is a way to create a victims compensation fund where they are benefiting from these tourist dollars, but this tourism is literally coming to experience black pain.
Exactly.
Which I call also black porn.
Profiting
off of it. So the city of Tulsa and restaurants and hotels are profiting off of black pain and not going back to black people.
Exactly. Exactly. That's it. You've summed it up. At the end of the day, black lives do not matter. You know, they want to say, well, they don't like that. Well, that's a political statement, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, we decide every day with the decisions that we make, and we prove that black lives do not matter. And this is just one telltale example of that. They do not care when it comes to it. It's about money, it's about power, it's about land, right? Because reparations for me are two things: greenbacks, cash, and land. God isn't making any more of it. And that's what we have lost. And in addition to that is our ability for generational wealth, so that we can say, I'm passing something on to my great-grandchild, and et cetera. And so they know that because they've done it in white society, right? That's how this country has been built. But when it comes to the black community, it does not matter. Black lives do not matter. And all we are seen as a commodity, right? We are consumers. We're not owners, we're consumers. And that's the state that they want to keep us in. And so the policies that they're going to pass, the programs, the initiatives that they're going to pursue are going to keep us in that mindset or in that situation that we're just consuming, but we're not owning for ourselves.
So final question for you. So the people who are watching, the people who are listening, what do you want them to do? If they're coming here, if people are coming here this week, what should they be saying? If people are going to be visiting Tulsa over the next year, if they want to visit the Greenwood area, what should they be saying and doing when they come?
Well, I think they should certainly support as many black businesses as they can.
Be intentional when you come here.
Be very intentional when you come here to do that. But more than anything, we need your voice, not only when you're here, but when you go back home, to continue to be that voice in your communities and to push Tulsa, Oklahoma, to do the right thing. Get involved with credible black organizations and institutions. The Black Wall Street Chamber of Commerce. Join the Black Wall Street Chamber of Commerce and provide your resources there, because our goal through these institutions is to recreate the history, the spirit of Black Wall Street, because we have the blueprint, right? We know what can possibly happen when we're left alone so that we can build our own communities and given every opportunity. But we know what systemic and institutionalized racism does, and its plan, that is to keep us out of the game, to keep us away from those opportunities, and to keep us in a maintaining of status quo type situation. So support black organizations and institutions in this community.
Do you have one more question? Okay,
yes.
So you mentioned, so there's the Greenwood Cultural Center.
Yes.
Then they're having this museum they're dedicating.
History Center, yeah.
What the hell is the purpose of a second museum?
Exactly.
I mean, why not come and say, hey, there's already one here. How about if we partner and expand this? I mean, so like...
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was the initial plan. The power structure, the philanthropic organizations, the corporations in this community, they said initially that we're going to expand the Greenwood Cultural Center. But if we give you this money, we want you to change your organizational structure. We want to come in, we want so many seats on your board. They tried to change and again and just take away that existing power structure. That board said, no, we're not going to do that. So they took their ball and went down the street. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. And there were many attempts at trying to look, if you're going to really do right by this community,
right,
improve upon, and by the way, Greenwood Cultural Center, state funds stopped 15 years ago, and the building has just basically been deteriorating. So our systems, the city as well as the state, did not fund this building. But now because we're approaching the 100-year centennial, now there's this rush, right, to put some lipstick on the barn. You know, put some lipstick on the pig type thing. And that's what we see taking place here. That's why I'm very concerned and will not attend these events that I know are just facades. They're not really concerned or focused on really doing right, atoning, repairing, reparations. That's not the goal. The goal is let's get past this 100-year centennial and maintain the status quo that we've established here. Tourism, okay, because we've hidden the story for decades, right?
So
but now that it's out there,
right. So now,
how can we make that money?
Right.
Just like what you said.
And that's the thing that I think that we have to understand, and which means that if you come here, be very deliberate, say something, do something, and so
ask. You don't have to. You'll find somebody that's going to give you the real deal. So no, that's not what you want to go to. That's not where you want to support. You want to support over here. Because this support over here is about improving our quality of life, improving our community, and that is not.
All right. Councilwoman Vanessa Hill-Harper, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much
for coming. Thank you so very much. As I said, folks, we have been here. We're going to continue to be here talking about what's going on here. A little bit earlier today, there was an unveiling of a mural across from the Greenwood Cultural Center. Powerful, powerful mural. We had an opportunity to live stream that event. If you want to see the full stream, simply go to our YouTube channel. But I had an opportunity to talk with the artist as well as Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Many of you know we had her on the show. Her brother Terrence Crutcher was shot and killed, her twin brother. So we had an opportunity to talk with her as well as KRISTI about that mural and how important it is to this community. Here's that conversation. With the unveiling of this mural.
Mm-hmm. This mural is truth. I've been just really arguing the fact that I'm so sick of murals. That's what this city has been giving us for reparations. They gave us some park benches to sit and reflect about what happened. Even a tree. They dedicated a tree. But something like this that comes from us that tells the truth. You know, the murals this city want to give us is Jackie Robinson. You know, they had no ties to this city and this massacre. Mm-hmm. And my great-aunt Janie was in the Dreamland Theater when the massacre happened, and she escaped. And just to see those ladies running out of there, it just hit me. It just hit me in all the years of us hitting this sidewalk and people saying, what are y'all doing out here protesting? That's stupid and doing this. And now people are finally hearing. And as Dr. Crutcher, my good friend here, always tells me, it's not what you say, but what you keep saying. Mm-hmm. And today, I just felt heard. I felt heard. Mm-hmm. It's not reparations, but it's our voice when you come in this district. Mm-hmm. It's our voice when you see it. And it's raw, and people need to see what happened, especially since Kevin Stitt signed this House Bill 1775, where we can't teach about the history and what happened to us because it makes white people uncomfortable, you know. And people keep saying, well, KRISTI, racism is everywhere. Massacres happened everywhere, but we're unique because before this state became a state, it was Indian territory, and the only people who could own land here was black and natives. So we want our land back. We owned a third of eastern Oklahoma. This is huge. We had land, we had wealth, and people need to know that. Our people need to know that.
That was one of the things that I sort of explained to people, because folks say, well, Black Wall Street burned down, then was rebuilt. I said, yeah, but what would it be like if those resources had not had to be spent to rebuild? Mm-hmm. Where would African Americans be? We talk about the accumulation of wealth. Mm-hmm. And the reality, I think what you're seeing is with that particular bill, I think with all these attacks on critical race theory, mm-hmm. And I have a book coming out next year called White Fear. Mm-hmm. What we're dealing with is really there are some white Americans who are absolutely afraid of others knowing the real history of America and what happened.
Absolutely. And as you talk about, yes, Greenwood was rebuilt by 1925 better than what it was before. But, by 1920, Oklahoma had over 50 black townships from freedmen. Land, they owned that land, these townships. That's what helped rebuild Greenwood. It was those 50 other black townships. We had a network of black communities across this state. And so that's what rebuilt it. And so not only are we fighting this state, white supremacist, this system, we are also fighting the tribes who kicked us out of the tribes, who kicked their black people out of the tribes. And we want what belongs to us. So we have a two-edged sword here we're fighting, a double-edged sword.
Dr. Crutcher, you made a remark at the opening when you said there are people who are going to be coming here who are tourists. And when I looked at the schedule, I see this year, but also the city, there's this arts district that's going to be unveiling all these different things. But what do you want African Americans who come here to say and do, and those folks across the country who are watching this, who are not going to be here, what they should be saying about what should be happening with the descendants, with the people who live here, of what was taken from our people?
Well, absolutely. I mean, people are going to be coming from all over, but in particularly black people to pay homage. But again, as some of the individuals said today, we didn't learn about it. As black people, as a descendant, I didn't learn about it. And so I hope that they will come and truly learn what took place on this sacred soil. We consider all of this a crime scene still because there's been no atonement, there's been no repair, no reparations, no justice. And so I want them to understand that and feel that and take their shoes off and put their feet on this blood-stained soil and realize that ancestors are speaking out from this soil, asking why, asking why. And so this isn't just a festival. I want for people to understand it's not about the music. It's not about John P. Key, P.J. Morton, John Legend, anybody. This is about justice. We have 3 last known living survivors who are here, who clawed their way through some of the worst times, Jim Crow, the civil rights movement in our nation's history, and they're here. And that's what it's supposed to be about. That's who it should be about, and their descendants. And so I need for people to be screaming reparations now. Reparations now. Nothing else. And so that's what I want for people to get. That's the message. And you can't have reconciliation. It's become a big business without the truth. And so we'll be spreading truth this weekend.
That's right.
When we were driving in, because again, it's very interesting in this country how certain words mean different things and they scare folks. So you got some people out there who are white who, oh my God, I hate reparations. I said, okay. 9/11, there was a victim compensation fund that the federal government established. Now, there were people who were impacted by it. That wasn't, other folks will say, but it wasn't caused by the federal government. But the federal government created a victim compensation fund that was established. Okay, so people are afraid of reparations. Okay, create a victim compensation fund.
That's right.
In Tulsa and Oklahoma, and they're gonna, and then of course they're gonna have all these different events. But do you also say that those resources that are being spent, that's where the creation of the victim compensation fund should start?
It definitely should. It definitely should. Right now, our only black city councilor, Vanessa Hall Harper, she's not here right now because she's fighting with the city legal department on that very thing right now. And so we are fighting for that. It needs to happen. And I keep going back to this Creek Nation because they just got $1 million in CARES Act funds. And just imagine how much that could help black people, freedmen's. And they constantly, this city and this state has constantly funded all kinds of stuff, just like the Greenwood Rising Museum. $30 million they raised for that. Not one dime of that is going to any of the victims, the survivors. That's who it should go to. They haven't done any of that. It's all this lipstick on a pig.
And just so folks again who are not here, so Tiffany, explain to folks what the Greenwood Cultural Center is, and then what museum she just spoke of, because there's a difference.
Well, the Greenwood Cultural Center was founded, and I hate to say this, by the late former state senator Maxine Horner and Don Ross, Representative Don Ross. They were legends in this community. She recently passed away this past, I think, February, and she went to her grave fighting for this community. She established the first 1921 Tulsa Race Riot Commission that established 4 demands, 4 points: reparations for this community, to explore what happened, to build a memorial, and to give scholarships for descendants of survivors. And not one of those demands have been met. And so she founded this cultural center, which is a staple in our community. This is where we do all of our events. We have history and art dedicated to what happened, the truth. And so this is the building. If you want to make a donation, you need to make a donation to the Greenwood Cultural Center in Maxine Horner's honor. And so we're north of this highway, the IDL. That's what destroyed Greenwood yet again. Destroyed it, devastated it. And so north of the IDL is where all of the predominantly black Tulsans live. South of the IDL, you see high rises, you see condos, you see rooftops.
So explain to the folks, because we covered the story as well, and some people are just confused by this, not understanding how highways were created to split up black communities. So when you say that destroyed it, explain that to those who are watching.
A part of the model cities and a part of what the LBJ administration put these highways through a lot of major inner cities throughout this country. And you notice there's no exits. There's no exits here. And so that really cut right into the heart. The Red Wing Hotel was right there. J.B. Stratford Hotel, the Dreamland Theater.
Anthony, just swing around just to show the highway. Swing the camera around, keep talking.
Yes.
Just swing around to show the highway.
Yeah, so that highway has really put I always say Greenwood is the heartbeat to all those other black communities. And that's a major artery right there. And it has really stopped a lot of people from coming here. Right now, the businesses on Greenwood, they don't even have any parking. They can't get there.
Again, KRISTI said something earlier that we rebuild bigger and better, but I always have to just push back a little bit. Some people rebuild, because 10,000 people were displaced and scattered all over the United States. They had to flee, not as immigrants, but as refugees, to white racial terror violence, anti-black racism, white supremacy. And we're calling this weekend homecoming. Greenwood, Black Wall Street is everywhere. It's a spirit, it's a mindset. And so we're hoping that we can be the model. We have one opportunity, and this is the weekend that we got to scream to the top of our lungs. We want justice, we want reparations, and if we can get it here, we can get H.R. 40 in Congress.
Joining us right now is Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. He joins us. Congressman, how you doing?
Roland, thank you so much for having me.
I am here in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the 100th centennial to commemorate the Tulsa race massacre. And part of the problem a lot of people have, Congressman, is that America has not properly created a victims' compensation fund for the survivors and their descendants. The state of Oklahoma hasn't done anything. The city of Tulsa hasn't done anything. Folks say that they are tired of just trees and benches and murals and parks and events along those lines, that America needs to properly atone for its past, especially when you have survivors who still are with us. Your thoughts on that?
Well, once again, thank you very much for having me. But, I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's what H.R. 40 is all about. John Conyers filed that bill every year. I've been in Congress now for almost 30 years. And John Conyers, I think, filed that bill every year that I've been there. When he was no longer in Congress. And we had Sheila Jackson Lee took up that legislation, and she's filed H.R. 40. Now, H.R. 40 is simply to establish a committee or commission to study this whole issue and make recommendations. And that's what we ought to be about. And I think you are very wise in using the term you just used, because people have allowed the word reparations to take on an ominous meaning. Reparations, the root word for reparations is repair. That's what the root word is. So how do you atone? How do you repair? I think you've heard me say this. I have studied Alexis de Tocqueville. De Tocqueville wrote a 2-volume work called Democracy in America. And I think you can sum up that work with one sentence from those 2 volumes. And it's this: America is not great because it is more enlightened than any other nation, but rather because it has always been able to repair its faults. Repair its faults. Tulsa was a fault. And Hamburg, here in South Carolina, was a fault. I went to a little South Carolina state, and everybody talk about these HBCUs, but I had no problem. I'm shocked when I hear people say they never heard of Tulsa. I knew about Tulsa as a college student, and you know how old I am, so you know how long ago that was. I knew about Tulsa. I knew about Hamburg in South Carolina. What was the name down there in Florida? I knew about all these things, and I have studied them. In fact, the book that really got me kick-started on this history stuff was From Slavery to Freedom. John Hope Franklin, a native of Tulsa, Oklahoma. When I wrote my book, Blessed Experiences, who did I ask to write the foreword? And she did it for me? Alfred Woodard, a native of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So all I'm saying is I'm in touch with all of this. And I get a little bit disturbed when people come talking to me as if I'm a newcomer to this or I don't know what I'm talking about. I've known this stuff and I've studied it, and I work hard as I possibly can to do what we can to overcome it. So I'm a co-sponsor of H.R. 40. But that is a study, and we ought to look. Yeah.
So, Congressman, I got to ask you, do you believe the votes are there? Will 218 Democrats, I don't think any Republicans even going to even think about it, but are the votes there for the Democrats to approve it?
At this particular juncture, I don't think so. I'm the vote counter, and I don't believe in misrepresenting things. I know people get around talking about, well, I think so. No, I don't think the votes are there yet, and I think it's because we have got to do a better job of educating people as to what we're talking about. Every time I hear the term reparations, people start talking about financial remuneration. Indulge me for a moment. My late wife, who you knew very well, we stayed married for 58 years. On her mother's side, her great-grandfather was a white guy down in Charleston, South Carolina. Her mother was a mulatto, and she was able to get educated and others in her family at Avery Institute that was established for mulattoes. On her daddy's side, none of that. So how do you determine this kind of stuff? That's why we got to have this study. And that's why people of goodwill need to come together and say, what can we do to atone? And I think I like that word. That's a biblical word. To atone for these past sins. And the way get the good committed together, and I'm trying to get everybody in the Democratic caucus, and hopefully some Republicans will join us, to vote for H.R. 40 so we can set up this study and get people of goodwill to sit down around a table or tables and come up with a proper way for us to atone for Tulsa and a lot of other things. Hamburg, too. I don't want to leave South Carolina out.
Well, that is critically important. So obviously, as someone, as you said, you're the one responsible for counting those votes, so you certainly would know. And you're absolutely right. But look, here's the deal, Congress, and we also know this here. It's a whole bunch of words that white people get scared of because they don't actually want to deal with the issue. The folks got a problem with Black Lives Matter. The folks got a problem with reparations. Now you got conservatives running around hollering, mad, upset, passing laws to get rid of critical race theory when that's not even taught in elementary and junior high and high schools. At the end of the day, I think what we are dealing with, Congressman, is white fear in this country. We're dealing with people who do not, that's why they hate the 1619 Project. That's why they can't stand Afro-American studies. That's why they can't stand any of this, because I just fundamentally believe, Congressman, and what they're really upset about the most is that you and I and Greg Carr and Reese and Amisha, my panelists, we all get to have an opinion, and they mad that we now can talk and we're not going to get lynched for talking back to them. That's just what I think, just where we are. And so I think this is the struggle we're dealing with, and black folks must be prepared for it, because they're going to fight any effort to truly educate Americans about real history as opposed to his story.
You are exactly right. I agree with that totally. I've studied history all my life. I started out studying this stuff when I was eight years old, and I used to teach it, and I still study it daily. And you are exactly right. And I think that we get more people to understand that and I think this fair is made up. I don't think there's any actual fair. I think they're using this as a cover. Everybody knows that Donald Trump is lying, but they use that big lie as a cover. If you go back and look at the Tulsa massacre, that was a lie. That gentleman that I just wrote about on that elevator accused falsely of assaulting a white woman on elevator operator. They found out that it was not true. But they acted on a lie, killed 300 people, destroyed a whole business district, all on a lie. That's the same thing that happened on January 6th. An insurrection at the Capitol on a lie. So we've got to begin. But
remember, January 6th was a repudiation of black votes. Donald Trump specifically mentioned Detroit, specifically mentioned Atlanta, specifically mentioned Philadelphia, specifically mentioned Milwaukee. They were repudiating and they were angry about black votes. He did not mention places where there were mostly white voters. I think we can't leave that out. That was driving January 6th.
Absolutely. I'm not leaving that out. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
Fulton County, you know what Fulton County, Georgia is all about. You know what Detroit, the votes in Detroit and Philadelphia are all about. Those are black votes. And they lied on black people saying they were cheating. They weren't cheating. They were just showing up. And they didn't expect for them to show up. So they made up a big lie. And so that lie is a cover for them to do the kind of things they're trying to do. That's all I'm saying. You make my point.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and also Carolyn Bryant, who lied about Emmett Till, is still living and has never been brought to justice for contributing to his death as well. Lastly, I got to ask you this here before go ahead.
I said, and she admitted that she's lied, and everybody act like they never heard her admission.
Absolutely. I got to ask you this here. The negotiations are continuing in the Senate. I talked to Attorney Ben Crump and the George Floyd family the other day. They made perfectly clear they want a strong bill signed by President Biden, and they also say there has to be accountability in that bill when it comes to when it comes to police and immunity. And so a lot of people have criticized you for your comments with regards to that. Do you believe at the end of the day that qualified immunity or a portion of it or something related to it is going to be in the final version that could very well pass the United States Senate?
Yes, I think it will be, and I said that it should be. And, you know, I know people ought to listen. I said right at the top of my comments, I believe in the old Lyndon Johnson theory that a half loaf is better than no loaf at all. Now, a full loaf is for us to get rid of qualified immunity. No loaf at all is to keep it as it is. So what is the half loaf? The half loaf, is, to me, is defining qualified immunity as to what the word really says. Look in the Black Law Dictionary, which I've done. Qualified in the Black Law Dictionary says limited. Limited. But we are treating qualified immunity as absolute. And it's not absolute. Now, I've heard from a bunch of people in the last several days thanking me so much for bringing out the differences in those two words. So if people would just listen to what I said, instead of jumping up, just getting up. For some reason, we just like to think the worst about each other. You know, I'm 80 years old. I've been fighting this stuff. I met my wife in jail fighting for this stuff. So I ain't ever going to be against the best interests of people of color. So, yes, qualified immunity doesn't mean absolute. It means limited. And that's what I said. That's what I meant. And I wish people would just listen and stop jumping on Twitter or whatever they jump on and misrepresent what I said.
All right, Congressman Jim Clyburn, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us as we broadcast it live from Tulsa. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Well, I hope you're there when I get there Sunday. I'll be there at the AME Church with that Vernon AME Church Sunday morning.
Yeah, Vernon AME, we will be there and we'll be broadcasting as well. We're here until Wednesday, so I'll see you on Sunday.
Okay, buddy.
All right, thank you so very much. I want to bring up my panel right now. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Reese Colbert, Black Women's Views, and Amisha Cross, Democratic Strategist. Glad to have all three of you here. I want to start with the historian. It is very clear, Greg, that there still is a wide divide here in Tulsa. When you look at what people are saying here, it was very interesting to me talking to people before even coming here. They were real clear. They were like, hey, don't go to the white folk stuff. Go to the black folk stuff, Roland. Don't do anything with them. And so, you know, and there have been folks have been trying to get Stacey Abrams to pull out because she's going to be scheduled to speak. Hill Harper, is going to holding an event. John Ledger is performing. And so even with this, the racial divide is still clear, is present, and it's unmovable.
It is, and with all due respect to our elder, Congressman Clyburn, and I first think of him as a student and a teacher of history, there's no evidence, and I know he knows that as well as most, there's no evidence that anything in Tulsa is anything other than business as usual. I think about the words of Mother Viola Fletcher, last week when she said, I'm 107 years old, have never seen justice. I think about the horrors inflicted on black people in this country every day. And as we heard, and brother, thank you, first of all, for being there and in doing there, when you talk to Counselor Hall Harper, and when you talk to Sister KRISTI and Dr. Crutcher, they really framed what is going on in Tulsa. Tulsa is a microcosm of everything that has happened to us in this country. State violence, mob rule, land theft. The reason there are black people in Oklahoma is because many of them got marched out there during the Trail of Tears. When you heard KRISTI talk about the Creek Nation, those Native Americans had Africans enslaved, and in a treaty the government had in 1866 with them, did not extend them the land rights. The reason that black people are in Tulsa, in part, and they had success up to the 1920s at Black Wall Street, was because they had land that they owned, and then many of them had come from all black towns like Rentersville, Oklahoma, which is where John Hope Lincoln's father is from. I say all that as backdrop to say this. Yes, KRISTI was right. Black Wall Street built back bigger. By the 1940s, they had more than 250 businesses. And as Dr. Crutcher said, one of the people that wasn't able to stay there was Mother Fletcher, who had to move out to California and who never finished the 4th grade, who just finished the 4th grade. But what happened after 1940? The war on Black Wall Street is the war that we saw everywhere. Representative Clyburn just said it. What destroyed Black Wall Street finally? Desegregation, which then saw the drain on the businesses, economic decline, and then so-called urban renewal in the 1970s, leading to the construction of U.S. Highway 75, redlining, no loans for Black people to buy houses and businesses. And so finally, Roland, when you say the divide is in Tulsa, yes, it's called Highway 75, and it is symbolic of the divide in this country. So John Legend, Stacey Abrams, all the rest of y'all need to stay your ass off of the stage with those open enemies of Black people.
Reese, what really jumps out here is so many people just in this city, in this state, in this country, having no understanding of real history. And that's why when you see these attacks on the teaching of real history, when you see the attacks from Republicans and from all these MAGA people, it's because they do not want the real story told. And what's killing them is guess what? We get to own our own damn cameras. We can go travel where we want to travel. We can tell the story. And that's what they can't handle.
Yeah, and what's so ironic is that in recent history, we've learned more, I shouldn't say we, but like the society as a whole has learned more and has done more to acknowledge the Tulsa massacre in fiction shows. Like, for instance, Watchmen, the backdrop of Watchmen with Regina King was the Tulsa massacre. And in that fictional version, there were reparations and things of that nature, as well as Lovecraft Country. But it's going back to your point that you made earlier about Black trauma porn. And I don't think that it was done in a distasteful way in those shows. It's being talked about and for entertainment, and not so much as what we're going to actually do about it. And so people do feel threatened by the truth, but it kind of when it can be presented in entertainment fashion, then people are a little bit more open to it. But one thing I didn't hear mentioned in any of the discussion was the Tulsa Greenwood Massacre Accountability Claims Act that Representative Hank Johnson just introduced in Congress on May 21st. It was also previously by Congressman John Conyers. I know Congressman Clyburn brought up the HR 40 Commission, but this Tulsa Greenwood Massacre Act actually goes directly to the heart of reparations for Tulsa specifically. And so that's something that doesn't have a great deal of co-sponsors. I think it's only 18 co-sponsors in the House. There's no introduction in the Senate. So now would be a great time to galvanize behind that. Everybody was sharing the very just heart-wrenching and just gut-wrenching testimony of the survivors. But what are y'all gonna do about it? There's no reason why there shouldn't be an introduction in the Senate. Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's from Oklahoma, introduced the resolution. The Oklahoma Senator James Lankford introduced the resolution. Where is the reparations bill in the Senate? Why aren't all the CBC members in both chambers sponsoring this and really galvanizing behind this? And why isn't Black social media, who is so up in arms about where's our Black bill, why are they not getting behind it? And so it's not going to solve everything with one snap of a finger, but at a minimum, when you do have tangible solutions that are being proposed, there should be more galvanization behind it. We should be as on message about the post-massacre attack as people are on message being mad about the COVID-19
Amisha, the folks here are making it clear the demands are going to continue, and I dare say they should, and it should be a constant fight to say no. You create that victims compensation fund, and don't you dare try to make money off of the Tulsa race massacre.
Absolutely, and I'm thankful that you're there and for the interviews that you've conducted thus far. I think that there's so many people who still don't fully understand or know the historical relevance of Tulsa and just how deeply wrought a lot of the violence happened to be, and to the point that we still don't have an accountability or an account for just exactly how many African Americans actually died that day. I think that this is such a tragic instance of just white supremacy and brutality, and that we still have not seen any type of resolution, any type of move forward, any type of full recognition on the part of not only the state, but also the national government in regards to the families and those that were lost during that terrible time. And I think that to continue to highlight, to talk about this, not only in the sense of Hollywood basically reimagining the event and using it for not just trauma porn, but also to perpetuate other movies and films, but utilizing it in a sense as an educational tool, but also a tool to ensure that the African American families that suffered, the Native American families that suffered, actually get their due, because Tulsa and Oklahoma as a whole has been so much to the Black community. And I think that that's often forgotten about in conversations about civil rights, about justice, outside of this annual, remembrance and celebration. These are things that we need to continue to highlight. It's something that we need to continue, pressing the pavement for, because for far too long, this country has ignored the fact that there were thriving African Americans, there were thriving but also business and entrepreneurship was the name of the game. Also was one of the forebears of that. And that's something that matters, and it's something that we should continue to fight for, not only in terms of difference, but also in terms of regarding the families of those left behind who were so dismantled by that tragedy.
Folks, hold it tight right there. We got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk with Aramis Ayala, the first African-American elected as a state attorney, a prosecutor there in Florida. She's running for Congress. We'll also be talking with the founder and editor-in-chief of the Black Wall Street Times, right here here in Tulsa, folks, as we, again, continue our coverage. Lots more to talk about right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
Shortly after 9/11, America and its allies went to war in Afghanistan to defeat a terrorist stronghold. We accomplished that mission years ago. Trillions of dollars lost, over 2,000 Americans dead, countless Afghans dead. It's time to get out. Many presidents have tried to end the war in Afghanistan, but President Biden is actually going to do it. And by 9/11, over 20 years after the war was started, the last American soldier will depart, and America's longest war will be over. Promise made, promise kept.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live here from Tulsa in the offices of the Black Wall Street Times. Aramis Ayala, of course, we talked to her many times when she was a state's attorney there in Florida. Well, with Congresswoman Val Demings indicating that she is going to be making a bid for the United States Senate. Aramis Ayala is one of the folks who is running for that congressional seat. She joins us right now. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So you chose not to run for re-election as state's attorney. Why do you want to go to Congress?
You know, it's important that when you care, you keep doing something. I'm running because I care. I care about progress. I care about people, public safety, public health. There's so many issues that the community that I'm seeking to represent has in front of them. You know, we often talk about the criminal justice system, but having been the state attorney, there's so many issues that fall under that umbrella when a person is brought into the criminal justice system. If we start with issues of violence, gun violence, we're talking about victims of crime. Once a person is brought in charge, you're looking at immigration issues, you're looking at voting restrictions, you're looking at housing limitations, job limitations, and right now, important to Florida, your voting rights. So we have to have someone who understands it, who's been in the trenches, and who will do something about it.
What are your top 3 issues if you're elected to Congress?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the social and justice and criminal justice reform because of all of those issues that fall underneath it. But in addition to that, I'm a cancer survivor. So I care about health care, not just being able to get universal health care, but most importantly, being able to have accessible and quality health care for all people, not just those who have access to it. When we look at what happened with COVID, we saw all of the disparities. So health care is going to be important. Down here in Florida, the climate matters when it comes to our waterways. We're surrounded by water, but we also have to make certain that we're addressing the climate and the environmental issues in the urban areas that often get slighted. So I'm going to be looking at climate, healthcare, racial justice, social justice issues, and so many other issues that are impacting people.
Obviously, we're also dealing with black economic social justice. And so what is your agenda for that? Because that's a huge, huge issue that we're seeing. The federal government, when it comes to, I know for a fact, for advertising, only spends 1% of its media dollars with black-owned firms. We see African Americans and other agencies not being able to access those dollars. And so what about black economic social justice?
Black economic social justice has got to be a priority. If you look at all the businesses that failed and that went under during COVID, those are small black businesses in our community. When you look at the housing crisis, affordable housing is a major issue that keeps a lot of people from being able to be involved and ultimately purchase and escape a generational poverty. So when you look at the economic issues, especially for black people, those are the things that matter. Unemployment, education, the student loan issues, small businesses, and certainly the ability to get a job and to have access to affordable housing.
All right, then. Well, look, you got to raise a whole lot of money. You got to go shake a lot of hands. And so, but first, we got to see the actual announcement. We've been hearing that she's going to run for the United States Senate, but it hasn't been fully announced yet, confirmed. But we certainly will be watching in this congressional race very closely. Aramis, Ayala, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much, Roland.
All right, then. Folks, as I said, we're here in Tulsa. One of the things that, while this was happening today, of course, the family of Ronald Greene, they were at the state capitol in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, demanding justice in that case. He is the young man who police initially said had crashed into a tree and died, when in fact he was severely tased, assaulted, really just brutalized. His case is under investigation by state and federal authorities. A couple of officers have actually lost their jobs. Reese, this is one of those cases again. 2 years ago, he was killed. The family is there they were there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, demanding justice. And this is just, again, one after another, where we have to yell, kick, scream, holler, act a fool to get justice. And then they released the video, and we see exactly what happened. But they lied to this man's family, saying he died in a car crash when they know they tortured this man to death.
It's just never ending, and it's crazy how, like you said, this is something that happened 2 years ago, and it's now just coming to this level of attention to it. And that's the importance of body camera footage. I remember when the whole defund the police argument was going on, and they were against body cams because they said it increases funding for police departments. But how in the hell are we supposed to know what's really happening to people without body cameras? Because we for damn sure cannot rely on the cops to tell the truth about what is going on. And so it's sickening. It seems like it's never ending. To a lot of people say you cannot train this behavior out of people. You can't even pass laws to prevent this kind of behavior. The only thing that we could try to do is try to make it so that there is actual punishment and accountability in these cases, but it does not bring a Ronald Greene back or all of the lives that we've lost to police brutality back.
This, folks, is some video that I'm playing right now. It was on Twitter. The family going to the state capitol, demanding justice in the case of Ronald Greene. Amisha, you can talk over this. And again, 2 years. This family has to go there and hold marches and do all of this sort of stuff. And then people wonder why black folks don't believe in the justice system. Well, when the police sit here and lie and then literally lie about what happened, the camera tells a different story. They even tried to hide. One of the cops tried to hide his body camera footage.
You're absolutely right, Roland, and it's frustrating. This is another layer of what we already knew about a lot of these police brutality cases, what we already knew about police covering for themselves and their cop friends. But it's beyond just body camera footage, because the footage was available. The footage was available immediately. We're talking about something that didn't just happen last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. This man's family buried him a while ago. We're talking about years at this point. And there has been zero accountability. My frustration isn't just the fact that there was body cam footage. Body cam footage can exist, and it's great when it does. However, when it exists and you can clearly see on it the length of brutality, the extent of a 49-minute video of this man being beaten, bloody, cursed out, being made fun of, and you're hearing all of these racial epithets. You're hearing them talk about the possibility of AIDS. You're seeing them use hand sanitizer to wipe the blood off of their hands after they've literally watched this man die and offered no form of aid. The problem I have with this is that the police had it the entire time. The investigators had it the entire time. There is at no point anyone who looked back and said, this is wrong, these guys should be pulled off, there should be an investigation, they should be charged with murder. Nothing for how long? So it's not just the presence of body cam, because body cam doesn't mean a darn thing if you're not going to pursue legal ramifications when police officers act outside of that badge and commit murder. So I think that for that family, my heart goes out to them, because they've been trying to fight for justice for so long. But also the full recognition that these police reports don't matter because they essentially lie more often than not, but also that body cams don't matter in many cases. This case did not have a young girl out with her cell phone taking camera footage and putting it on social media and showing the world. This was people largely dependent on the police officers themselves being held accountable by the body cam footage that they had. And that simply did not happen.
Dr. Greg Carr, we're playing video right here of the protesters who are blocking one of the roadways there in Baton Rouge. They want to get folks' attention. At the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do.
Well, Roland, what we're seeing right now is what you just showed is justification for the white nationalists in this country who are working feverishly at the state level to introduce legislation and pass legislation to allow white nationalists to run over protesters. This is not a country. In the words of Mother Viola Fletcher last week, she said, I think about the horrors inflicted upon black people in this country every day. She's 170 years old. With all, again, due respect to Representative Clyburn, the difference between qualified immunity in this piece of federal legislation and not qualified immunity is the difference between a full loaf of bread and a piece of paper with the word bread written on it. Brother, let's be serious here. Let's be serious. The reason, as Amisha just laid out very powerfully, the reason they can joke, the reason they can spray hand sanitizer trying to get the blood off their hands is because, contrary to what those cowards say with their bird chests when they stand up in a court of law, they do not fear for their lives. It is time for them to fear for their lives. It is time for their children and their husbands and their wives to fear for the loss of their homes and their children's future inheritance. It's time for them to literally fear for their lives, because, see, here's what's going to happen. Here's what is going to happen. We're going to get the message that if the police pull you over, you better be strapped and you better be ready, because, as Ice Cube said, rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So let's get serious, Representative Clyburn. Either it's qualified immunity, and you roll back the judge-invented doctrine of qualified immunity that came into existence in the 60s and then was reinforced and greatly expanded in the 1980s. Some of us can read law cases too, brother. Or prepare yourself for what comes next, because one of these days we're going to get the message. And that message is not going to be very kind to these killer death squad cops and their fake punk-ass attorneys that back them up, and the cities that pay rather than them pay and break up these damn police unions. Qualified immunity has to go, brother. They have to be punished. That's what will back them off us.
Folks, earlier today, across from the Greenwood Cultural Center, they had the unveiling of that Tulsa mural. We had the opportunity to talk with the artist, a white man from Maryland, who talked about how he was moved by it, and then explained to us, walking us through exactly what his vision was to illustrate what took place 100 years ago in the community of Greenwood, where 36 blocks were torched by racists here in Tulsa. You said when, after Tiffany introduced you, that when you got the call to do this, you had no idea about this issue?
I had no idea. It was never taught to me. It was a blank. I had to look it up.
You born and raised where?
I was born in 1959, raised in Florida, military family, public schools, Florida State University. Never once, heard anything about it.
And how were you selected? Who chose you? How did that happen?
I think Randy Vaughn, the gentleman right there, knew my work, saw the Harriet Tubman mural.
Harriet Tubman mural where?
Harriet Tubman mural in Cambridge, Maryland, on the side of the Harriet Tubman Museum.
Got it.
And Visitor Center, or Educational Center. And again, it was, it was a powerful, powerful image of a powerful, powerful woman that when you tap into the stories that you're telling, if I didn't get emotional, if I can't get emotional, not doing my job, A, but B, as a human being, so out of the hair, as a human being, you have to experience it in order to feel the pain of the person and the people that you're conveying, but even as just human beings walking the planet, to understand why the black perspective has an issue with any of a number of things. And when you start to tell the story, you start to realize, the complete mistreatment and abuse of a race simply because of the color of their skin. It gets really heavy. And I don't say, I say that, but I feel it when I paint. Mm-hmm. And when Randy called me about doing it, and I think it was because of the Harriet Tubman mural, because for that one, it was the same thing. I don't take lightly that I'm a white man painting a black story, but I'm also a human being painting a human story, and that we should be able to tell each other's story, and the disadvantage to the black artist is that the white population is not hiring black artists to tell the white story, and I can attest to how much empathy and how much you learn about yourself and the people you're painting about by being asked to paint that story. So, and I think I try to convey that to my work, and I think that's probably why, in answer to your question, they asked me to paint it.
Take us through your process to visualize this. What research did you do?
Right.
How often did you travel here? Did you talk to people?
Right.
Just take us through that process.
I will. I had a lot of conversations with Randy and Dr. Crutcher about what it is they were trying to convey, what they wanted, me to express through the painting. The amount of research, listening to podcasts, reading historical articles, just reading everything I could about what happened that day. I didn't have the opportunity to travel out here. This is my first time in Tulsa, but I think...
This is your first time here?
In Tulsa,
okay.
Yeah. And so I think, that's the beauty, obviously, of the internet now, is that you can pretty much get a picture of what it is and what happened through all the documentation. But what you don't get is what you saw today, was that human level, that emotional level, and sometimes it just doesn't work that you can travel, either you're working on other projects and getting out to meet, the people face to face. It's not feasible. It may not be in a budget. at the same time, the beauty of the internet again, Zoom. I can have a conversation with you over the internet, and at least I have contact with you, which I did with them. So, my first time here. And
so how did you settle on this? And so because you have the different. Well, so we're gonna get the microphone here.
For
Anthony
sure.
should just stand on that side right there.
Okay.
So just explain the different elements of this mural.
Well, when I was having the conversation with Dr. Crutcher, she was telling stories, telling me about, and I had also read the stories, but the firsthand account, of running down the street with her mother being chased by white men, and you just had to read about the white community deputizing 500 people and being told to make it happen. These are and the deputies allowing it to happen. I mean, I would say the police force at that time allowing that community, the white community, to burn down a town and kill. Those are truths that you can't gloss over. I mean, that's the truth that gets swept under the carpet. That's what has to be. When you look at that in this painting, you want to know, who is that person? Why is there a white guy in there holding a gun? Why are they loading bodies onto a flatbed truck? And when you start to do your research, you start to realize that's what happened. They loaded dead bodies onto trucks and took them to mass graves. That the white community made sure that they could, that they went into every house, and in every business to and destroy it. The whole goal was to destroy it and get rid of all evidence, and then to pillage what was in every one of those houses. That has to be addressed. You have to feel, as a white person, you have to look at that and be a little bit shocked that, wow, I don't feel that, but someone did feel that. And they did this, and that person, and the consequences of that action was what's right there in the center, which is a loss of a husband, a father, of a future.
Got the child clutching.
The child, yeah. Well, my dad died when I was 7 years old in Vietnam, so I never saw him. He never came back. He's MIA. And I remember my mom screaming, when they came over, and I remember what it feels like, what it felt like as a child to to have your dad no longer there. The difference was I still had a community, I still had a house, I still had a family surrounding me, a military family. This child doesn't. To be that boy at that age and have this happen, you can't comprehend at that age what happened, except you were afraid. But when he turns 15 or when he turns 17 or when he's 20 years old, he'll start to feel all the pain that he's feeling at that moment. And as a viewer, I think, and it's important of public art that tells a story like this, you have to be able to put yourself as a viewer into that boy's mind, into that woman's heart and mind, and to feel the devastation of death, and you've got to be able to look at the white community, your community, and say, they did this, And
you also have that plane.
The airplane
up as well, and what people don't realize is, they covered this in the 60 Minutes piece as well,
right,
that this was the first time planes had been used to terrorize American citizens.
Yes.
Not 9/11.
Yes.
What happened here in Tulsa.
Absolutely. This massacre.
And is the orange? Does this happen?
Well, see, the orange it represents fire, but obviously a lot of this fire would already be gone.
Right.
So I had to come up with a style that wasn't fire, but it felt like fire.
But didn't you also start after sundown? So you sort of have sun setting. So it gives both.
Which is why you get that kind of long shadow. This is either early morning or late in the evening. But so you just as a technique, you want your eye to go right to the people. The other story you will eventually learn as you look at it. But when you look at the immediate impact of this mural, I wanted it right in the center. I wanted all the lines converging into her, because that's the legacy. That's what happened. What happens after this moment on this porch? Who knows? I mean, was she able to rebuild? Was that boy able to go on and live a prosperous life? I don't know, but we as a viewer have to confront that and say, this can't happen. We can't. This kind of hatred, and we know it's still out there. I mean, we're not fooling anybody that there are still people with that kind of hatred in their hearts, and it's. I think the more you tell the story, the more people, like I do, after telling the story, I despise that hatred now. I mean, before you understood it was there, but until you really start to tell a story and feel the empathy of those that are affected by that, you don't, that's when it has an impact. And that's how, as an artist, I'm changed by telling these stories. I mean, and it's, I take incredible pride in telling the story, telling the Black heritage story, telling the Black story. I'm not Black, but as a human being, we all are, and if I can't get into that story, then how can we ever, move on?
On the sign over
yeah, man.
here, you
Sure.
have, again, you have a woman, looks like her daughter, that's
Right.
trying to escape.
Exactly.
And then you have these white folks pointing them out.
Chasing them down, get them, absolutely, because that's what happened. I mean, there's no denying that happened all day long. It's documented, rounded up, taken to wherever at that time they took them, or run completely out of town. And if you resisted, shot. So the word massacre is powerful, but the story of a massacre is even greater than the power the word gives, because you suddenly realize that this happened to human beings, and it only happened because the color of their skin. The hatred and the jealousy that it took to do that, I can't comprehend. As a human being now, it's impossible. But I know it happened, and you've got to capture that, and hopefully I did. I mean, that was my goal.
All right, Michael, we certainly appreciate it.
All right, absolutely.
Thanks a bunch for walking us through this.
All right, well, I appreciate it too, and it's my honor actually.
All right, thanks a bunch.
All right,
I appreciate
you got it.
Good much.
You got it.
So, folks, we're here broadcasting from the offices of theblackwallstreettimes.com. They were supposed to have a big celebration, their grand opening, but a massive storm came through, and they pushed it to Saturday. They had a virtual program. If you go to their Facebook page, you can check it out. And then also, I'm gonna ask the founder-in-chief, does he would like for us to actually restream it on Roland Martin Unfiltered? I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting a few eyeballs for that stuff. Nehemiah Frank Jones is right now. This is the magazine that they actually put out, folks. You see, we have it right here. You see the poster here, the Black Wall Street Times Greenwood 100. And so, how you doing, man?
Great. It's nice to be on your show.
All right, so explain to us exactly what is the Black Wall Street Times. Y'all launching, what is it?
Yeah, so the Black Wall Street Times has actually been around since 2017. Today we just released our Greenwood 100 magazine to commemorate the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. But, more so to talk about the deep history that has culminated into, what became the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And so that's just white supremacy and racism.
But you're also a digital company.
Yes.
So share with folks what y'all have been doing, what kind of work you've been doing, right. And where can people actually check out the work?
Yeah, so you can check out the work on the blackwallstreettimes.com or thebwstimes.com. And yeah, so we've been doing this since 2017. A lot of the work is locally focused, but if there's a story that breaks nationally or that we think could break nationally, then we tend to focus nationally.
So what are you pushing out? Is it written stories? Is it video? Do you have audio podcasts?
Yeah, all of the above. We have all of the above. We have the written we have a podcast. We have a written work that we put out every single day, and then we publish once a year.
Okay.
So we publish a newspaper. This year we decided to publish an actual magazine. So the magazine, I would say, is similar to the 1619 Project.
How has the company grown in the 4 years?
Yeah, so I mean, it started with me. It was pretty much just a blog at the time. I wanted to clap back at Trump and tell folks about about my history. I wanted to elevate my people and my community.
You from here?
Yeah, I'm from here.
Born and raised?
I am born, wasn't raised. My dad was in the military, lived everywhere, all across the country. But yes, I am a Black Wall Street legacy. My family on my dad's side, they were here pre-massacre. They stayed after the massacre and rebuilt.
Questions for our panel. I'm going to repeat it to you since I have IFB. So questions from our panel. Let's start first with Misha Cross. Any questions for Nehemiah Frank?
Absolutely. Over the years, you've been doing so much work there. How is it that you're creating the narrative of this story today for fresh eyes? There are so many people that still have misconceived notions or honestly weren't taught the full legacy of what happened in Tulsa. How are you reimagining that and showcasing it for your audience now?
So I would say we're definitely showcasing that through Greenwood 100. It has a set of, photographs or images that are, I would say, caution, right? You would definitely want to make sure you're prepared to see these images. And we even go deeper. We talk about, why the race massacre happened in the first place. What were the seeds of the race massacre and the importance of just teaching it.
Let's see. Reese, your question for the founder, editor-in-chief of the Black Wall Street Times.
Yes, I applaud what you're doing, but we also have to recognize that people have very short attention spans, and you won't necessarily capture as many people with something in depth. Is there any way that you have been able to reach people in a more concise or maybe like a meme form? Do you think that that could be effective? I mean, I know obviously I'm not saying that you can really capture the whole essence of the massacre in that form, but at the same time, we know people have very, very short attention spans. Most people don't even read an entire caption on an Instagram post. Is there some way that you are able to reach that particular demographic, or is that not even something you think is even worth trying?
That's a really good question. I would say that a lot of the learning comes through the journalistic activism that we do. So if there's a potential, if there's a policy that we want to, push up against, we don't just do journalism here. Like, we are trying to protect our people, and so we'll do a call to action right through our media outlet, because if it impacts Black people in an adverse way, we're gonna mobilize our people and we're gonna show up, and so then we create more energy around our causes. So other media outlets that are I would say that have majority white journalists, they're more likely to pick up, our stories and help amplify our causes.
Greg Carr, your question for Nehemiah Frank.
Brother Frank, and thank you, Roland. We're all readers here, so we're good. In fact, brother, I went on your website, and I know Roland is going to instruct you to tell other people how to do the same. I bought a copy of the newspaper that's coming out now. It's about to ship, the one from last year, and I got a coffee mug just on top of that, because otherwise I'd ask Roland to put an extra copy of that in his bag. But this really ties to the question I want to ask you. I'm thinking about Mother Fletcher again last week here in D.C. testifying when she said, "I've never made much money. To this day, I can't barely afford my everyday needs, and all the while, the city of Tulsa has unjustly used the names and stories of victims like me to enrich itself and its white allies through the $30 million raised by the Tulsa Centennial Commission, while I continue to live in poverty." 107 years old, brother. Let me ask you this: as you sit there with our brother Roland Martin in Black-owned and Black-controlled spaces, while all of our friends, including Cornel West and Hill Harper, a couple of our frat brothers, are going to be there all next week with the shiny stuff, can you help us understand the difference between where you are and what you all are doing, and what's going to surround you in this flood of attention over the next week? How can we distinguish between what's what, and how can we support you? Because we know that's Black-owned, Black-controlled.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. I like that. So the community is putting on the Black Wall Street Legacy Fest, and that is led by, or spearheaded, I would say, by the one and only Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. She is the force in this state. She is, she's remarkable. Her unwillingness to compromise, unless the right thing is done, has really helped, drive a lot of the activism and the change that has happened in this city. And recently, John, and this just happened. This is just new news. John Legend and Stacey Abrams have pulled out of the Centennial Commission's event.
Right.
And that just shows the type of, power that she has, and the community is completely following her. As far as like Mother Randall and Mother Fletcher and Uncle Red, I was in D.C. with them at the Capitol building when they were testifying, and my goodness, like their resilience to last this long. You know, we had a chance to meet the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and just in that 30 minutes that we had with her, she showed more compassion and grace and empathy to the living survivors, and just that in 30 minutes than the city of Tulsa has shown to them in 100 years. You know, and I think that is, you know, that's something to be said about, you know, the wickedness in this place. You know, my hope is that through the Black Wall Street Legacy Fest, through the community murals that are going up, and, you know, the events, the education that we're putting out, and of course through the Black Wall Street Times, that we're able to continue to, you know, show people, you know, our perspectives, you know, and how we bring change, you know, in a very red state like Oklahoma.
Explain, first of all, I mean, obviously I understand the importance of Black-owned media. And so is there a Black newspaper in town? So what's the status of Black media here being able to tell the story and control the narrative?
Yeah, so the Black Wall Street Times is of course here. We don't print daily or anything like the Tulsa World, but you know, a lot of people are moving.
And the Tulsa World is a daily newspaper.
Yes, it's the daily newspaper. There's the Oklahoma Eagle, and then there's the Black Wall Street Times. In 1921, when the Black media stations or the Black publications were burnt down, there were only 2 back then. But yeah, like, you know, we're pushing, we're driving the narrative. They don't always listen to us. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, the governor of the state, their comms team wouldn't even pass any information to us. Like, just think about that. Like, the government, we are paying taxes to you, but you're not even sharing, you know, information with us. And so one of our journalists reached out for a comment. And, you know, we got this nasty email back from the governor's team, and the comms person pretty much said that, you know, we don't respond to activists pretending to be reporters. It was it's just a very disrespectful email. And so, you know, just from that, like, all of the media, even the white folks, even the white media was going after them like, wow, how could you say that to them? Like, they do excellent reporting too. So, yeah, absolutely. Important of driving, you know, the narrative. Yeah.
Last question for you. What do you see this 5 years from now? What do you want the Black Wall Street Times to look like 5 years from now?
I think Dr. Crutcher summed it up pretty well. I would like to, you know, be next to the Root and next to the Griot. I don't want to replace them. I love the work that they do. I would like to be next to, you know, the Roland Martin show. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you want to actually want to broaden it beyond just Tulsa.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because this wasn't the only place where they had Black Wall Street.
Right.
There were others. There were other Black communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are other communities that need, you know, that need Black media.
Absolutely.
To help amplify their stories and, you know, why their lives matter.
All right, then. Well, we certainly appreciate it. Glad you let us camp out at your location. I know you got another event to get to, but we appreciate you sitting down and talking with us at Roland Martin Filter.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks a bunch. Also, hold up. So, folks, the website, theblackWallStreetTimes.com. Okay, people are asking on YouTube and Facebook. They want to know, how can they get a copy of the magazine? Can they order one?
You can order on the online store.
Okay, online store as well. And see, y'all, he's rocking the gear. Y'all, normally I have my unfiltered gear. I don't have any. But the people they're asking us what they want to know, can they buy gear?
Yes, you can buy the gear on the website too.
See, there you go. They ain't got no problem making money selling y'all some stuff. And y'all buy to support the Black owned. Nehemiah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right. Greg Carr, you got all them books stacked behind you. Surely, Greg, I know you pulled out your books related to the Tulsa Massacre of 1921. Take it away.
Only a few. I did have a few around, brother. I'm going to resist the urge
Hey, look, all these cats are going to be at the official thing, Roland. I mean, Hannibal Johnson's going to be there. It's a great one called Black Wall Street 100, right? This great, even children's books. Alvarine Bill and Stacey Robinson did Across the Tracks. This is for young people, children. You can see that one there. It's called Across the Tracks, which talks about it as well. The Burning. This is a YA piece. Young adult, Tim Madigan redid this. This if you got an 8th grader or a 9th grader. And then just 2 others right quick. Carlos Hill's
in fact, hold tight. Well, Greg, hold on one second. Greg, hold on one second, because I want to talk about that. So Tim Madigan and I worked together at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Tim Madigan, white guy, grew up in Iowa. And it wasn't until he was doing the research and it hit him. And when he heard these stories, and I remember we did an interview and he talked about a black couple on their knees, elderly black couple praying in their living room, and guns are put to the back of their head and their heads are blown out. And Tim said to me, he said, Roland, all these years when these racial things would happen, when OJ would happen, he said, I would be like, what's wrong with black people? Why are folks tripping? He said it was not until he did the research for that book, he said, where he understood black pain. He said Tulsa and the research put into perspective for him, a white man growing up in Iowa who never saw black people until he went to college, who never knew anything about this history, and he was almost in tears, and he said, for this to happen, he said, and he was angry, he said, because he grew up and had no idea. So I'm going to try to find that interview that we had. I'm sure he's going to be here. I probably will cross paths with him. But that's actually a very good book. And like I say, a former colleague of mine in Fort Worth. Go ahead.
No, Roland. In fact, we should almost end with that, brother. I got 2 more in my hand, and there are many.
No. You got some other. No. Show your other stuff. I got time on.
No, I just, like I say, I got a bunch more that I didn't pull, but I want to show just 2 more. One is called the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Carlos Hill, who's going to be there next week again. See, the problem is the folk next week have all the money. That's what Mother Fletcher was saying. Y'all making money. Y'all have got this money. They're funded corporate sponsors. But this is an excellent book because he not only talks about what happened in 21, he talks about the fact that they rebuilt. And he shows the pictures and the photographs. And then he takes us into the moment where we see the highways come through and all the redlining and stuff. And then he ends with the personal testimony of many of the survivors, almost all of whom are ancestors now. And the last one I'll end with, and as you interviewed the brother, I thought to myself, the muralist, I said, you know, it's good to have him. The great Ed Dwight did a sculpture there at the John Hope Franklin Reconciliation Park. The same sculptor who's done so much work everywhere, including the South Carolina State Capitol. But brother, I said, you know, are there no black muralists? And the cover of this book, which is a children's book, Floyd Cooper, who is a Tulsa native, now lives in Pennsylvania, did the cover of this book and the illustrations. This is a children's book, Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre. Look at the cover.
That looks way better.
Oh my God, can you understand? You know, and that's the cover. So of course, when you open it's the full mural, you know, are there no black murals? You know, think about the fact that this is a collaboration between a black man and a black woman, Carol Boston Weatherford and Floyd Cooper. There they are, Gabrielle and Floyd Cooper. I'm not saying other people can and shouldn't participate. It's the only way that this place is going to make it. However, at moments like this, that'd be black hands that apply paint to the side of buildings. With all due respect, everyone else can help, but I just want to end with that and get this book for your children. Get this book for your children and let them sit with those images. So I'll start with that, Ron. Thank you, brother.
Also, let me say this here, folks, and you knew this was coming. The Department of Homeland Security, they actually have issued a bulletin warning that events tied to this commemoration could be the targets of white supremacists. That decision came down. Of course, President Joe Biden is going to be here next week as a result. But again, that's what has taken place and DHS sort of offered that. And I can confirm that the events with John Legend and Stacey Abrams it was stated there being postponed, not canceled, postponed, no reason given, but I can confirm what Nehemiah just told us, that the events that would have featured John Legend and Stacey Abrams will not be taking place this week. Got to go to a break. When we come back, will be more from Tulsa. Also, we'll be talking with the Ghost Brothers. They got a series on Discovery. A lot of black folks saying, ghosts? Really? Why not? We'll discuss next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
When you study the music, you get black history by default. And so no other craft could carry as many words as rap music.
I try to intertwine that and make that create whatever I'm supposed to send out to the universe.
A rapper, for the longest period of time has gone through phases.
I love the word. I hate what it's become, and to this generation, the way they visualize it.
Its narrative kind of like has gotten away and spun away from, I guess, the ascension of black people.
Black women have always been essential. So now how are you going to pay us like that?
And it's not just the salary. I mean, there are a whole number of issues that have to support us as women.
Yeah, but that's what we deserve. That we shouldn't have to beg anybody for that. And I think that we are trying to do our best as a generation to honor the fact that we didn't come here alone and we didn't come here by accident.
I always say every generation has to define for itself what it means to move the needle forward.
Hey everybody, it's your man Fred Hammond.
Hi, my name is Brescia Webb, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. And, well, I like a nice filter usually, but we can be unfiltered.
Do you believe in haunted houses? Well, my next guest are three friends in Atlanta who say, yeah, this thing is real. They have a hit reality series on Discovery's Travel Channel. Joining us right now for the talk about the new season of Ghost Brothers Lights Out, Juwan Mass, Marcus Harvey, and Dalen Spratt. They're called the Ghost Brothers. Gentlemen, how you doing? No audio from them or me?
I can hear you.
All right, gentlemen, can y'all now hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. We can hear you.
All right then. Okay. All right. Want to make sure no ghosts are sitting there screwing up everything with y'all feed there. So y'all think ghosts are real?
Man, bro, you know ghosts real. You know ghosts real. Stop playing. You know
what
black
it is.
folks all traditionally, we've always thought, only ghost that we play with is the Holy Ghost. Come on, church. So we've decided that we just wanted to see what that was going to really be, and it's actually real, dog. They really out here. They out here for real.
So okay, so for the skeptical person out there, how do you know ghosts are real? Have they talked to you? Have you seen them? Or have unexplained things going on? How you know ghosts real?
No, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, man. A couple years ago, we was just like everybody else, sitting at the house, wondering the same questions. When we started doing this, I'm telling you, we have seen some of the craziest things that you probably ever imagined. I mean, like shadows walking through a room, not on the wall. It ain't no lights on in the room. I mean, just a black figure walking directly in front of you in the room. Like, we seen some crazy stuff, man.
Okay, now when you say we've seen some crazy stuff, so were all three of y'all together? Did y'all see it individually? And so and if you were together, did y'all go, did you see that? Did you see that? We all saw that. And did y'all stay in the house?
Man, it's crazy. No, I was gonna say it's crazy. Like, if one of us are together, we always try to wait to see if the other person kind of saw it, so we can be like, so we can have that validation. But we've caught it on camera, and we've caught it on camera, and that's like, that's the best right there, right? Like that's the nail in the coffin when you can have it show and prove. But typically, I'm the first one to run when something goes down. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm out of there.
Okay, first of all, how did y'all get together? Where did this even start? Were y'all just sitting around talking, and it was kind of like, man, I think we ought to do a ghost show. And then who said you too high?
So Juwan and I had just graduated from Clark Atlanta University. We were roommates at the time. And I remember it had to be like 3 a.m, man. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just watching one of those ghost hunter shows. And I realized I never saw any reflection of myself on any of these shows. There was no black folks, no minorities, no young folks. And I was just curious to why black people didn't dabble in the paranormal. So I ran across the hallway to Juwan, bust through his door, and woke him up at 3 a.m. and told him, we need to hunt ghosts. And that didn't go the way I thought it would at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Roland, I'm going to be honest with you. My first thought was like, are you sober? Like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, but I went back to sleep, woke up the next morning and was like, man, you might be on to something. And from that point on, we decided to go see if ghosts exist.
Questions from my panelists. Reese, I'll start with you. Reese, have you ever seen a ghost, experienced a ghost, and are you scared of them?
Hell yeah, I'm scared of ghosts. I watch all kind of horror movies. Right now, my daughter, she does this thing where she looking up. Sometimes she screams, sometimes she giggles. I'm like, is it Casper the Friendly Ghost or is it an evil ghost? Let me know, because we have an old house. But my question is, how do you guys determine? You know, I read that one of you is on Zoom and then the other two go in there. Do you ever switch it up, or is the one that's on the Zoom, or like the one who's guiding? Do you decide like I'm not going in no matter what? Like, cause I'm trying to figure out how come all three of y'all don't get in on all the fun. And then my second question is, are you guys considering like writing a movie or making a fictional version of it? Those are my two questions.
Yeah, to jump on right into that second question, we definitely are considering writing a movie. We're working on that now. Like, I feel like that's the next progression for the Ghost Brothers. But to your first question, with this new series, we thought it'd be kind of interesting if one of us knew the history about the location, but the other two knew absolutely nothing. And their job is to go in that first round and see if they can get any information while in these locations that matches the actual story. Because if they can, there got to be some kind of proof out there that something's helping them out.
You can obviously tell. You can obviously tell he's the one that sits outside, and we go in because, like, it sounded really good. It sounded like it was coming from a selfish place. Like, you know, you were really protected. Marcus and I be in that thing exposed.
Bruh, wide open, man. We be in like asylums, plantations, like churches, like everything that's crazy that is beyond all belief is where we always get to go in first. And we appreciate that, Dalen. We appreciate that, bro.
I have one more question.
Man, just playing. Yes, ma'am.
I have one more question.
All right, Reese, go on with your second question.
I'm sorry, I just want to know, have you guys ever like gone to a location and come home and been a little shook up, like, what's going on? Did a ghost follow us here?
Nah. Listen, I'm married.
Okay.
I'll tell y'all real quick.
Okay.
I'm married. So I'm married, and my wife don't play with that stuff. She's like, ain't nobody calling you boo. Who's that boo? Ain't no sign, go sign here. She be like, cut all that out. So I'm like, before we even go anywhere, we be praying. We had the sage, all that stuff. We do make sure that we straight for real.
Okay.
Thank you, Reese.
Greg Carr.
Roland, brother. Well, first of all, Reese, your baby girl is in good shape because the Congo people believe that the folks who are closest to the ancestors are the ones who just came back from the other side. So she's probably in conversation with your great-great-grandmother. So she's good, which leads me to the question I want to ask you, brothers, because if y'all went to Clark, Atlanta, you probably know the answer to this because you know my brother, Dr. Dan Black, who I'm very close to down there. I'm sure y'all know about haints, blue haints, bottle trees, Duppies out of Jamaica. In other words, there ain't no such thing as ghosts. There are only those who you can't see who are not in material form. I'm sure y'all know about those bottle trees and how to trap an evil spirit. I'm sure you know what haints are, whether it be South Carolina, Louisiana, or Florida. In other words, those are ancestors. How y'all putting this black spin on this thing to help these people understand that the idea of being scared of your ancestors came out of Europe, brother? Help us.
Hey, first off, Dr. Craig, you my favorite person on TV, period. I'm just going to tell you like this. I watch you every night. And every time you do this, like, that little pushback, I'm like, I got to listen. So,
appreciate
we just have respect for whatever we're investigating. We look at it, like you said, with honor, that we know that it's just an ancestor, or it could be just a person who just doesn't have an actual voice or a presence right now. So that's typically how we get a lot of our evidence too, because we're very cordial, we're very respectful when we go into places, and we're just a great team, to be totally honest.
That's beautiful.
We knew.
Unless it's an ancestor of a racist, at that point, y'all need to, But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm just saying, like,
well, gentlemen, first of
no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, we knew from the very beginning that it was very taboo, the idea of dealing with spirits in the black community. Like I said, my mom was my head pastor of my church, so she's been grooming me since I was in the 3rd grade to the ideology that any other spirits outside of God is something of the devil. You know what I mean? And so our biggest hurdle was just crossing that taboo within the black community. But I feel like we've been doing so. You know what I mean? We spoon feed it by adding humor into our show and respect into our show, and to show people that, all the spirits out that you may encounter may not be on that negative side. And like you said, you could actually be out there reaching or speaking to one of your ancestors. One of our first shows was on a plantation, a slave plantation in Louisiana, and our interactions with those spirits were totally different than our white counterparts who had investigated there before.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Y'all, it's a new season. The show is called Ghost Brothers. Lights Out. You can catch it on Discovery Plus's streaming app. Check it out. I certainly want to appreciate Juwan, Marcus, and Dalen for joining us right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Gentlemen, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Roland. Appreciate y'all.
All right, then. Folks, that is it for us. I want to thank Nehemiah and the folks here at the Black Wall Street Times for allowing us to broadcast our show from here. Tomorrow, y'all, we're going to start early. A lot of events happening all throughout the weekend. We're going to be live streaming. We're going to have 2 crews covering Tulsa, things left and right. You don't want to miss that. So, y'all, what you should do is set your notifications on YouTube and Facebook. So when we go live, it pops up on your phone and you can see the events. I haven't seen anybody else here. This is why we do what we do. We're black owned. Y'all know how we roll. It's important that we cover the issues that matter to us. That's why we're here. And so we want y'all to support us in every way possible. And so that's why we do it for you. Your dollars make it possible for us to be here, for us to travel here. And so we believe in covering our story, controlling the narrative. We don't need to have white media telling us what needs to be talked about with Black America. Please support us via Cash App by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. PayPal is paypal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. You can also go to Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com or Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All 100% money you give goes to support this show. If y'all support us there on YouTube, remember we only get 55% of the money that's given there. So give to us direct. Folks, we appreciate it. Hey, if y'all on YouTube, hit that like button. We need y'all to like as many of our videos as possible, because that's what allows for us to go up in the algorithm, for them to recommend our videos. And when you recommend our videos, others get to be able to see it, and that also increases the money that we're able to generate here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Man, we certainly appreciate it, y'all. Thank you so very much. This is a great space. I love what they have here on the walls. You know what? I might think about, doing that in our new office space for Roland Martin Unfiltered. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna get some ideas, take some photos here. All right, y'all, we got to go. I shall see y'all tomorrow again. We're gonna be live tomorrow on Roland Martin Unfiltered, but we're gonna be live all day, and so we're gonna be popping up on the live stream. So be sure to check us out. And we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Greg Carr, Amisha, and Reese, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so very much. And folks, we keep praying for our regular Thursday panelist, Erica Wilson. I'm texting her. She's getting better. She's getting stronger. Y'all prayers are working, and she certainly appreciates all of them. Thank you so very much. Don't forget to go to thebblackwallstreettimes.com. That's their website. Follow them on Twitter, on Instagram, and also follow them on Facebook. That's it, folks. Y'all take care. Hi!